Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Progressive Planet's Fiscal 2025 and Q1 Fiscal 2026 earnings calls. The financial statements and MD&A have been filed and can be accessed through the SEDAR website. Today is Wednesday, September 17th, and joining us is CEO Stephen Harper. He will be presenting the company's financial results, followed by a Q&A session. Investors are encouraged to submit their questions via the Q&A box, and we will address them at the end of the session, along with any questions submitted by email in advance. I would remind everyone that certain statements made today may contain forward-looking statements that are subject to known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors. For a complete description of the risks and uncertainties facing the company, please refer to the MD&A and other continuous disclosure filings, which are also available on the SEDAR website. Due to travel requirements, we must stop the presentation no later than 2:15, so we have a little less than 45 minutes here. And now I turn it over to CEO of Progressive Planet, Stephen Harper.
Thank you very much, Martin, and I appreciate everybody who's taken the time to listen to this review of our annual results as well as the first quarter. I do have to catch a plane to Seattle, but I've committed to Martin that I'm going to release a shareholder update in the next 3 weeks and book another call where we can spend more time on items that are not related to the past year or the past quarter. More detail on Pause Glass. Happy to answer questions on Pause Glass today, but I will schedule a call within the next 3 weeks, again with Martin, where we can get into more of our forward-looking activities versus today. Today is an earnings call. But thank you very much. Not going to read the legal. Martin is much better at reading the legalese than I am, and he's already done that. So I want to dig right into the slides that are coming forward. I'll talk about the full year and then the Q1. We combined this call because we knew we were going to release our Q1 early, and there was such a short time period between the year end and Q1. We thought we would just combine that into one call, and I think going forward we'll continue to do that. So when we actually issued the news release on August 31st, we acknowledged that our revenues were flat. However, in roughly a year ago, we overhauled the sales compensation of our team. We hired several new individuals, and we tailored their compensation to reward growth. So a much higher portion of the total comp is associated with growth. So we do not have a huge number of customers. Our active customer list is slightly less than 200 because we deal with large businesses, large organizations that, we deal with distributorships, we deal with national chains. And when we introduce new products, there is a lengthy sales process. So over the full year, we saw flat sales. We were very diligent on controlling costs and increasing profitability. But during that whole time, our people were working very, very hard to build and to grow the business. And we saw that growth kick in the first quarter. And we were also developing new products. One of the ones that we've seen phenomenal growth on is our geothermal grout. And just from Q1, from the prior quarter of Q4, we actually saw about 150% growth. So that was a product that it took us 1 year to get certification. And geothermal grout is a bentonite clay-based material that is, you pack around when you put tubes down in the ground for heat to come from the earth or released to the earth through these plastic tubes, they need to stay in contact with the earth, and geothermal grout expands and contracts with them. So it's a really interesting new market for us, and we're seeing rapid growth. But we did not see that in the full year. We saw it in the first quarter. So segueing into the first quarter, we saw an actual 26.6% increase, and sales were up in every category. They were up in our industrial absorbents. They were up in our animal health products. They were up in our kitty litter. So we saw excellent growth across our categories, and in particular, a new product, because I did see a question that came to you by email, Martin, where somebody asked about what new products. Well, this is one that solved two problems for us. Number one, it allowed us to use bentonite clay fines that we were having difficulty in finding a market for. So we created a whole new market. So it allowed us to use powder that was a byproduct of making cat litter for Costco and other customers, our Wonder Cat, which is made from bentonite clay. And we created a new product category. So geothermal grout was not by any means all of our growth, but it's just an example of where we saw phenomenal growth in Q1. Gross margin. So our gross margin was very little change year over year. And I want to talk about, okay, the market will only bear so much by way of changing your price. And we obviously seek to get the highest price we can in any given market. So how do you improve your margin if you do not have elasticity of price? Well, you do it by reducing either your fixed costs or your variable cost. And the easiest way for us to fix our variable cost is to introduce automation and robotics. So during the full year, commitments to automation were made. A new robot was ordered, but we have not seen any leverage from automation in our margins to date because we just received our new Generation 7 Columbia Okora robot, and we're just around the 18th birthday of our existing robot. It will be replaced. The old robot can do 10 packages a minute and only one product at a time. The new one can do 17, and it can do 2 different products, which allows us to integrate our 2 top producing lines into this new robot. But the point I wanted to make here is we have not yet seen any improvement in our margins that we can attribute to major investments in automation because we haven't installed and commissioned the new robot yet. So then if you look at our Q1 from 2026 versus 2025, why was there a 500 basis points increase in margin? It was our ability to control our fixed costs while we increased our revenue. As I just stated, I got ahead of myself on the prior slide. Pardon me. We have not seen any leverage from major automation investments. The new robot arrived after Q1 ended. Andrew Towsley, our VP of Operations, posted some real great pictures on LinkedIn. I think I reposted those. And we have it in place, but the actual installation and commissioning is going to happen in the first 2 weeks of November at the start of Q3. And as I mentioned just prior here, we will robotically palletize from our 2 top lines. Now, our second producing line is what we call our valve pack line. And that valve pack line, we still manually hold the bags. Valve pack bags are the types of bags that most people would be familiar with. Ready mix concrete, dry. You go to Home Depot or Home Hardware or Canadian Tire and you buy that bag of concrete and you add water. It's a paper bag. Well, they fill by a valve in the top. So they're called valve pack. And we sell our Red Lake Earth 40-pound bags. One of our top 3 sellers are produced in that bag. So it's a very, very busy line for us. We invested in Q1 in a automated valve packer. And so once that is received and it's coming from Spain, our top 2 lines, there will be nobody that will ever manually place on pallets. any large packages. Both our main line, which currently has the robot, and the valve pack line, which is our second busiest line, they will both feed the new Generation 7 robot, and it will simultaneously pack products from both lines with 70% increased palleting rate versus what we have today. So income from operations for the year, it was up 164%. Again, good discipline on cost control. So even though the sales were actually slightly down, we had a significant increase based on cost control. But they got very exciting for us quarter over quarter. Q1, our quarterly income from operations increased to over $700,000, which was up 35%. Want to talk about other income. I think this needs to be addressed. So our auditors provide direction for us on how we classify income and expenses, and there are rules associated. And when we have income from operations, we don't include royalty income, any dividend income that from other investments, any grant income. Those are all reported near the bottom of the income statement, completely separate from income from operations. So if I go back to that slide, income from operations was $717,000. So I want to talk about the components of other income because they are very meaningful and they will be repeated for multiple years to come. So royalty income, dividend income, those are both reported separately as other income. We have a very small royalty that we receive. We get several cents per bag on antibacterial cat litter that's produced by and sold by a major big box retailer. And we report that in this section. We did make an investment in a publicly traded company that is in an affiliated industry to some of our own operations that pays a very healthy dividend, and we report that dividend income in other income. But the biggest component of this is grant income, and when we receive grants, we have to book those until if we receive cash in advance from the federal government or the provincial government or any grant issuing authority, until we are actually qualified to claim that, we can't record it as income. And as we qualify to claim it, we remove it from our balance sheet where it sits as deferred grant income, and we record it. So if anybody does the math, they know that we received over $2 million in January and March of this year, and we haven't claimed nowhere close to that yet. So logically, you can expect to see grant income continuing each quarter as we deploy capital per the agreements that we have signed. And I also want to talk about that it's very much a part of our corporate culture to be looking for support for as we build into new industries. And we have a very aggressive ongoing application program for grants. It's not just for PosGlass. As one example, we've applied for multiple grants to reduce legacy greenhouse gas emissions on our natural gas burner. We've got grants under application or near application in the provinces of BC and Alberta and the state of Oregon. And sectors that we work in are a key focus of multiple government grant programs. So grant income is a component of comprehensive income, and for the minimum of the next 3 years for PosGlass, we will be reporting grant income. But again, part of our corporate culture, and we have people that a significant part of their employment for us is applying for non-dilutive funding. So investment highlights, very clean cap table, just under 110 million shares, no warrants, about 8.9 million stock options. So if you have 110 million, you are allowed to have 10%. So you could have up to 11 million in stock options. So I guess the comfort that people can take is that we don't have a lot more options that we could actually issue. Roughly about 2.1 million. The options that we've issued over the last couple of years have been 5-year options. And so with those being 5-year options, you don't have frequent renewals and then additional stock option expense. So I wanted to draw that to people's attention. In my opinion, there is minimal value given to our intellectual property. And our cash flow is funding new products. There's no dilution to fund right now. We have a competent and aligned management team committed to building shareholder equity on our balance sheet. And our shares trade in the venture, the OTCQB, and the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. I will say that we've started to see more trading in the over-the-counter QB. I think we saw 60,000 shares today traded there. So we're starting to see some interest in the US and utilization of that exchange. And it's not just the Canadian exchanges. And to be frank with you, I don't monitor the Frankfurt, so I can't comment on that, but we are there. That is it for me. If you want to open it up, Martin, to questions.
Thank you, Steve. Canadian and US sales were 37.7 and domestic and 62.3 exported to the US compared to mix in Q4. Domestic sales were up just 4.5%. Why were US sales up so much?
We've seen real growth with our customer Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply has over 2,400 retail locations, and our 3 SKUs are in each of those. And they are on a rapid expansion to grow more stores. That's number one. But number two, we are not a business to consumer. We sell full truckloads. Occasionally, we'll sell what we call an LTL or less than truckload, but we sell by the pallet. And when Progressive Planet bought Absorbent Products 3.5 years ago, we were doing a very small amount of business to consumer fulfillment in-house, shipping, packaging and shipping for Amazon orders. And it was highly inefficient. And we had a couple of false starts to try and do that business better. But in the last year, we engaged a company out of the US, and they have 8 distribution centers across the US, and they only sell on Amazon. And then they order truckloads of products and distribute those amongst their 8 distribution centers and then go direct to consumer. So we have seen tremendous growth in our Amazon sales, but we are not doing the fulfillment. We simply have another B2B customer who then operates and specializes in B2C via Amazon. So that is a second reason why we're seeing growth in the US. And then we've just generally seen also an increase because we are now selling White Lake Earth again. And we've been quite vocal about losing that business and regaining it. And so there are multiple reasons why we're continuing to flourish in the US. And of course, it's 10 times as big a market. So I hope that answers that question.
Do you expect to see US sales to outpace and outgrow Canadian sales?
We have some initiatives that I'm not prepared to speak about today for growth in Canada. And as I mentioned, we're going to talk about future growth. Sometime in the next 3 weeks, I'm going to schedule another webinar, and we'll give lots of advance notice where I can talk more about that subject than I will today.
Progressive Planet is generating substantial free cash. What are the company's plans for the excess cash?
So I'll first say what we are not in a hurry to do. We have $5.6 million in long-term debt. The cost of capital for that is 5.05% with a 22-year amortization. We're just not in a hurry we paid down a chunk of debt when we did a refinance, and we spoke in great detail on that on a news release. We paid down over $400,000 of debt in Q1 and long-term debt. We're not in a hurry to further pay that down. And in fact, one of the terms of that long-term debt is that we can switch to interest only for 24 of the 60 months of the 5-year rate that we have locked in right now. The amortization is over 22 years, but we have a 5-year rate and it's 5.05%. We're not in a hurry to deploy capital where we are saving 5.05% interest expense, and that is a taxable expense for us. So in saying what we're not in a hurry to do, what we are looking for, and again, I'll speak more about this in a near future call, is we're looking to deploy capital by either investing in public or private companies. They need to be accretive to our business or allow us for long-term vertical integration, a term that my mother used to use, and I haven't heard her use it lately, but is stick to your knitting, Steve. And we will stick to our knitting. So, but we also have a fairly diverse areas that we can look at, whether that is buying new brands and assimilating them into our product flow, or quarrying and processing, toll processing. There are lots of things that we can consider as we look, and there are several materials, of course, post-consumer glass, limestone, cementing materials, even fly ash is a potential for us if we can enhance fly ash or its attributes. So there are many different sectors that we are looking at to make investments, and we have begun to deploy some capital into an accretive public company opportunity for us that we think long-term there's accretive reasons to own this company, and it pays a dividend that's much higher than what we can get on GICs. And, we have several $1 million right now on deposit in GICs. We're not looking to continue to invest significantly more sums into debt-bearing interest income.
In your MD&A, you note that the provincial carbon tax was eliminated at the start of Q1. Given your substantial use of natural gas, how much money did that save you, and should it save in future quarters?
I think that one's caught me a little off guard, but if my memory serves correct, sort of a minimum of $20,000 a month, and can exceed that depending on our consumption.
Can you discuss the seasonality and lumpiness of your business and what things you're doing to smooth that out?
I can discuss it, but I may not give an answer that the person who asked this question wants. There is a certain amount of seasonality that we simply cannot manage away, and that is because some of our products are used more in different seasons. Cat litter sales are up in the winter because cats like to be inside far more in the winter than they do in the summer. And in the summer, they do their business outside as much as they do inside. In the winter, they do their business inside. And so we sell more cat litter in late fall and winter months. Conversely, Red Lake Earth, one of our top 3 sellers, it is registered as an animal feed additive, and it has several off-label uses. And one off-label use that it is massive growth that we are seeing is in killing fire ants. So the ability of the Red Lake Earth to desiccate the ant, we actually get so much free advertising because people post mortality rates and kill rates on fire ant hills in YouTube videos. And so we see very, very strong sales of Red Lake Earth. from sort of May to October, and then it eases off. And then cat litter sort of picks up in October and eases off in May. But we can't have a perfect counterbalance. There will always be some lumpiness. Sometimes a large chain for us will pre-order 3 or 4 weeks of it in advance, and those and will deliver in one quarter versus another. We can't control lumpiness. We can try to find new products, but there will always be in our industry, and companies much bigger than us have similar lumpiness. There will always be some level of lumpiness based on the nature of our business.
Beyond the uncertainties created by U.S. tariffs, are there other environment or economic uncertainties that you fear could be or that are significant for you over the next year or two?
Well, I actually would like to sort of address the tariff. And as a CEO, I need to take any emotion or patriotism. So I have my personal beliefs and my love of my country, but I need to segregate that from business decisions and demand and geopolitical factors. In my opinion, we are seeing geopolitically that there is a strong increase in nationalism or wanting to produce in your own country. And I cannot ignore that. So we are looking very, very intensely to establish bricks and mortar at some point in the future in the US, where we produce products in the US that are predominantly sold in the US. And that is a very strong focus of my time, to find opportunities for us to do so. We are producing White Lake Earth again, but we do not own the deposit. And as a result of not owning the deposit, we do not have long-term certainty of supply. So that is something that we are seeking to mitigate. We are seeking to find long-term stable supply of industrial minerals that are in our wheelhouse, stick to our knitting, but we very much have a desire to produce in the USA. And then secondarily, we've begun to look at opportunities in the United Kingdom and in Europe to also generate products and look to diversify outside of North America. And I'm spending a significant amount of time evaluating those types of opportunities as well.
Can you speak to your new product development and what other products, either to be named or not named, do you have significant workings in the new product development space?
So we made a commitment, and I believe I put it in our MD&A maybe for the year end, that we don't, in the past, historically, we used to talk more about products very early stage. And we've stopped doing that until we know there's a market acceptance and that something has a very reasonable chance of long-term success. We don't talk about them. So I'm going to continue with that position, but I did talk in my presentation. So geothermal grout, we started working about 18 months ago, and we had a customer come to us and say, "You've got bentonite clay. Can you make it finer, and can we add graphite to it? And we are currently buying this out of the US. We're a Canadian company. We'd like to buy it in Canada." And we spent a full year doing various tests to get this NSF certification. And NSF is a certification that the material that you're using is safe around drinking water, so that you're not putting a hazardous material in residential areas or areas where people live or work and creating a harmful environment for them. It took us a year to get that certification. And then when we did, we started selling it. And once we had a long-term supply agreement, we made an announcement. So we had started selling it, but when we got a 5-year commitment from a major customer we then talked about the product. And that is to avoid creating any unrealistic expectations about products which are too early in their development. So when we launch one product, there may be 2 or 3 that we are working on. And with any R&D, nobody has a 100% success rate. So the one that I'll talk about today is geothermal grout. And we do have multiple other products that we are working on, some in the cementitious and some outside of the cementitious. The other product that I'll talk about that we issued a news release is we've been making cat litter since 1989. And we will be delivering our first lightweight cat litter in November. And we issued a press release in the last couple of months where we talked about licensing a recipe, a proprietary patented recipe from a much, much larger company, sorbents company, which makes cat litter. And I do not have their permission to use their name, but they're many, many times bigger than us and very successful in the litter business. And we licensed a recipe. When we make traditional clumping cat litter for Costco and for other customers, it weighs about 70 pounds a cubic foot. And we talk in American imperials because they're much bigger than us. That's the industry speak. Our red lake earth, diatomaceous earth, is 35 pounds. So it's half the weight of our bentonite clay, but it doesn't naturally clump. So we licensed a proprietary recipe and we will be introducing. So we announced in the first quarter a long-term supply agreement for making and manufacturing, and it was an exclusive geothermal grout. And now the next one that I'm very excited about, now that I can talk about, is that we are entering the lightweight cat litter business. And we see really, really big growth opportunities for that material.
As you increase your throughput and efficiency with robots and automation, what are the next choke points that need to be addressed?
If you look at a map of North America, Kamloops is north and west. And for us to have significant growth outside of reaching production capacity within our, and we have a lot of unused capacity. We do not yet operate 24/7. We operate 24/5, but there are certain products based on their density, and there are certain products where we don't have close proximity to a certain material that for us to grow require us to process at a second location. So there are limits to how big you can grow in North America by being in Kamloops, and particularly when there is a heavier weight product. We very successfully sell red lake earth products in Florida, Texas, Arizona, Southern California, but you can't sell bentonite clay at 70 pounds a cubic foot. You can't sell it in those areas. The trucking doesn't make sense. Your logistics, your shipping costs are a key component. So as part of our growth, I have a lot of energy, and as long as my health is good, I plan to work another 15 years or so. I'm 56 right now, and I am spending a lot of time to look at expanding outside of Kamloops, at the same time increasing our efficiency and looking to control our fixed costs while we increase our revenue per employee and thus increase our gross margin from Kamloops. But it's a combination effort. Continue to be more efficient and produce more from home base, but find other locations that can allow more growth.
Are you able to share the revenue breakdown by business line?
I'm not prepared to do that for competitive reasons.
All right.
We have a lot of competitors, and I'm not prepared to share that information. Our competitors could be even on this call. So I have to balance shareholder disclosure with running a competitive business, and we're just not prepared to get into that.
How much margin expansion can you get from automation?
That's a real tough one. I would prefer to answer that with the numbers. we have commissioning, and I can't give you an honest answer on that today with exact, and I prefer to let that results speak for themselves.
Are there more automation projects you can put into place that can, is there still room for more investment and margin expansion?
There is not a lot of room left. We have 4 production lines, and the 2 biggest of the 4 that account for roughly 80% of our revenue will all have fully automated palleting, and one of the 2 lines will have automated filling, and the other line, the filling is still done semi-manual, but the operator simply just holds a plastic bag and it fills within 2 seconds. So there are not big opportunities for us to bring automation to the other lines. Account for about 20% of our business, but there is tremendous opportunity for us to fulfill excess processing capacity that is created when your robot can palletize 17 bags a minute versus 10. That's a 70% increase. And when that robot is not working every weekend, then you've got 2 divided by 7 as a fractional increase in productivity or in capacity. So we've got capacity to expand with existing. So that would be for us. It's not further investments in robotics and automation. There are small things, and we do practice continuous, lean manufacturing and continuous improvement. But the big gains that will be made the equipment will be in place in Q4, and that will be our automated valve packer and our dual line robotic palletizer.
When you say Q4, do you mean calendar Q4 or fiscal Q4?
Fiscal Q4, which fiscal Q4, sorry, is February, March, April of 2026.
Okay.
So we will have our new dual line robot and our automated valve pack and the tie-in of conveyor systems for both those lines to be integrated with the new dual line robot. That will all be in place by the end of fiscal 2026, the current fiscal year.
What is the status of your relationship with PyroGenesis?
We've completed the first phase. We're waiting on a proposal to look at phase 2. It has not been something that we've spent a lot of time on, to be frank with you. But that shouldn't be misinterpreted that we have walked away from it. It's something that we need to make some decisions on in the next 3 months about whether we are going to allocate further capital. And one of the decisions around that is opportunity cost. How much capital would it take to create more of this product versus other investment opportunities? And we need to rank them and make some decisions.
Is the dry end PP on schedule?
So the pause glass plant, I'm going to get into the entire pause glass in the next couple of weeks and speak far more on it. I'm not going to get into schedules and what's happening today. It's a more detailed conversation. So we've been advancing both phases simultaneously, and I'll talk in much greater detail in very short order on where we are in both phases, because we are developing them concurrently, and I'll get into that within the next 3 weeks.
Someone's asking about who, are you able to disclose who owns or where do you get your White Lake Earth from?
White Lake Earth is owned by one of the top 3 first world cement companies. So the deposit is owned by CRH, in the US. They operate under Ashgrove, and their head office is in Dublin. And they're a public company, I believe, well over 40 billion euros, and they own the deposit.
And that is the end of the questions. Steve, any final comments before we wrap it up, and wrap it up right on time here?
I've been accused of not being upbeat or positive in the past, and I try to be objective in when I speak. I am extremely excited about the team of people we've put together. And it took some time between the acquisition of our primary business and really seeing it hum and operate efficiently. We are just getting started. You're as good as your team, and we have a world-class team. We've got multiple additions that we intend to make of other world-class members that I believe I'm going to be able to announce in the next 4 to 6 weeks as we sign long-term agreements with additional team members. And I have a lot of faith in the team, and I believe that we are only just starting to leverage where we can go. And I kind of feel like we're sort of in the first inning here. If this is a baseball game, we're still in the first inning. And appreciate those people that have been patient through times that were quite tough and when things weren't looking as rosy. But I've never been more optimistic about the future of this company than I am today.
Steve, thank you very much for your time. Thank you, the audience, for all of your questions. And I guess we will be talking to you again within a few weeks to discuss more of your future endeavors.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.